So we're here with Micha, and we're talking to him about his days in New York with Shlomo that has really affected his life in a very profound way. Originally from California, and we want to hear about the experience. Just overall, tell us the story, at least the overall story.
Right. So wow, I have a kind of a famous story of how I really met Shlomo. Even though I knew Shlomo, I'd been to the Moshav. I was here on junior year abroad, 78, 79. And that's when I met Rabbi Gedalia Koenig, the Breslover. But I was also in the Moshav, I met Shlomo, but it wasn't really till later that I really connected with him. After I finished university, I had gotten so interested in Jewish mysticism, Yiddishkeit, but in a mind-blowing kind of way, while I was while I was here with Rabbi Gedalia. So right after I graduated university, I came back here and I started studying with Rav Ashlag, Rav Shlomo Ashlag. He was one of the sons of the Baal Sulam.
Here
the Baal Sulam? Yeah, I was in Bnei Brak.
Oh, wow.
And many stories. It was an amazing time. But then at the end, a lot of different things happened. I had to leave the yeshiva. The Rebbe had a heart attack. I had a whole crisis. I had to leave the yeshiva. And I ended up going from Igra Rama to Bira Mikta. And I was in the Bira Mikta. I was 22 to 23 years old, something like that. And I wandered around Israel. I was got into such a deep, and I ended up back at my parents' home in the end. And then I went to, this after months, I went to a Shabbos. I heard Shlomo was in town in Malibu. So I went to a Shabbos there. And after Shachris, after reading Torah, he just drew everyone in chairs and started saying Torah. And I felt him literally in that time when he was saying the Torah, I felt like he was sewing my guts up, like my guts had been opened up, and I couldn't take in any new experience because of all the trauma I had been through and this and that. And then I felt Shlomo sewing that up, really healing me. I felt him healing me. Just with Torah that he was saying, and he wasn't talking to me, in particular.
Right.
And that was the start of my connection with Shlomo. And then I moved to New York to basically to hang out with him. Yeah.
You live
and his chevra. What?
You live in
and it was very freewheeling. It was a very freewheeling chevra. We could do whatever. I lived in the Upper West Side. Everyone, the men and women were, it was quite freewheeling. And Shlomo was, all kinds of people. And Shlomo was just such an amazing person, amazing teacher, an amazing, just his presence was always like some kind of a uplifting, a shechina, but also he was tremendously funny, tremendously also funny, and generous, of course, and just always, there was never a time when he was, how with The Simpsons, so they have Krusty the Clown, and the minute he's off camera, he's like a real son of a gun. Yeah. Shlomo was always Shlomo. He was wow, so high. And sometimes with the music, sometimes we'd hear him he'd say, wait, and he'd hear a new melody, and he'd start humming it. And if it was a weekday, he would take up the tape recorder and tape it. But it was Shabbos, so then we'd make efforts to remember the nigun, but probably usually we didn't do it.
Oh, so that's something that's not known. Okay, but it looks like in an interesting way, all your life you were searching for Shlomo.
Yeah.
And the yeshiva, I don't want to say Efrat because it's not the right city.
Gush.
The yeshiva in Gush with the rabbi with the heart attack. You were really willing.
I was in Bnei Brak.
In the Bnei Brak. Okay, you were really
But
willing.
I was at Gush before that. When I was 17 to 18, I was at Gush with Rav Lichtenstein. Yeah.
Right. So, but you were really willing then, though. You were willing to figure it out, but it didn't work out. There was a big disappointment. And then Malibu. What was the Shabbos? Malibu? Random Shabbos?
It was Tazria Mitzorah. You want to hear the Torah? I can tell you the Torah that he said if you want.
or you could tell me maybe the words that you used that drew you in.
Yeah,
It was probably the way you spoke also.
right, of course.
You seem to have done. I don't
He
know.
said like this. He said, to Zuri Mansour, he said, okay, it's all about like speech, right? Because of Lashon Hara, that whole thing. He says, do you think when God created the world, do you think he like spit out the words? Oh, no. First he said like this. He told the story of the Baal Shem Tov. He said that when the Baal Shem Tov, before he was revealed, so he was in he had a little place in the marketplace where he would do shechita. That was one of his jobs. He did many things, and then he left, and someone else took his place. And there was a guy next door, a non-Jewish guy, in the booth next door. And the person who took the Baal Shem Tov's place as a shochet, he would sharpen his knife, and spit on his hand, and snap the hand on the rock, and sharpen the knife. And the non-Jew next door would go, and he finally said to him, "What are you doing? What am I doing wrong?" Yeah. So he said, "Okay, I know. I don't know anything about Jewish or no. All I know is that the person who was here before you, when he was going to shecht an animal, he would wet the stone with his tears."
Oh, wow.
And then Shlomo went on to say, "Do you think when God created the world, he like spit out the words? Let there be horses. Let there be tulips." Every single thing that God brought into being, he said it in its own melody, its own beautiful melody. And the only beings that don't hear that melody, can forget to hear that melody, are unfortunately human beings. That's why, if Rabbi Nachman says, if you have a choice of davening with 9 other people, or go out into the woods and daven with the woods, with the grass and the trees, it's better to go daven with the grass and the trees. Because the 9 other people, maybe they're davening with you, maybe they're not. The grass and the trees are davening with you 100%. And you know what the grass is davening? Let me be the bladiest grass. The grassiest blade. Just let me be what I am to the utmost. That was the
wow.
That was the healing. Through that, he poured in some healing to me.
Wow, no, that's incredible. And then you moved to New York. Where did you live? Upper West Side, I'm assuming? Mm-hmm. And what year was it?
101st Street most of the time for like
what? Yeah.
82 to 88 to the beginning of 88.
Oh, so okay, then New York was still pretty.
Yeah, I loved it then. I
gritty.
don't like it now. Yeah, I liked it when it's gritty.
It was gritty. Wow. And then
gritty.
How much you pay for rent?
It'd be at that time we had a 4-bedroom place with that was $1,200 a month that we shared with different roommates. But then we found out it was really rent controlled, and so we ended up getting up, after 5 years, we got like $20,000 back.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. And you ever borrowed someone's station wagon?
What?
You ever borrowed a station wagon? So,
borrow a station
wagon? I don't know, to move furniture, you borrowed a station wagon. That's what you did in the 80s, no?
Yeah.
I don't know. You ever went to Studio 54 was closed already, but also you weren't looking for that.
Studio 54? No, I was a Shlomo hippie.
How often did you go to the shul every day on 79th?
Not every day, no, because it didn't have a daily minyan. Every Shabbos, we would not only daven there, but we would also eat there. All 3 meals we ate with Shlomo. When he was there.
Right. So
yeah, there were also some people making food. Women would make food, and we'd order food.
And when he wasn't there Shabbos?
So when he wasn't there Shabbos, also sometimes there was a period when his twin brother would also come in and do Eli Chaim. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
I heard of him.
So I knew him well too, and he would come sometimes, and sometimes we would just do it ourselves. Actually, he let me, when he would come to Israel, to be in the Moshav for 6 weeks in the summer. I was kind of the rabbi of the shul.
Oh, okay.
Because I had smicha,
right?
And and even let me sleep in his room.
And they trusted you.
And he trusted me.
So did you ask Shlomo advice? Like you were there 82 to 88. That means 6 years.
Yeah.
Right, and then you came here 88.
No, so 82 really through 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87. So 6 years. There was a period my father was sick, so it was about a year that I wasn't there off and on.
It's like 4 or 5 years or more.
Yeah.
But like a full 4.
Yeah. No, it was at least 100 Shabbos.
Yeah.
With him, and yeah.
What was like? How many chaver were around that were his chaver?
It was porous. It wasn't one thing because he knew a lot of people. But there was a chevra of about, I don't know, 15 that were, always said anything that would be there, there'd be there. You know what I mean? Like we were the main chevra, like 20, 15, 20. But he had chevras in all kinds of places, all other cities, and it was very porous. People were coming in. He has so many friends, so many people that, he was in touch with.
He was a worldwide celebrity for a reason. Ironically, his music became crazy famous after.
No, it was famous before too. His
Right.
music was famous. He was like not like for some reason. Well, it was hard to. It was with Shlomo. You'd make an event with him, and he'd come 2 hours late.
Right.
So if you were part of the chevra, you didn't mind that he came 2 hours late, but other people didn't like it so much. And the Haredi world then. But he was still, he would come here, he would come to Israel when he'd be in Yerushalayim, say, he would get out the word to somebody, and there'd be he'd say, well, let's meet at Thursday night at midnight at the Kotel. And then 300 yeshiva guys would come, like Mir guys and people like that.
And he would sing?
He would sing, and he would say Torah, yeah.
This is by the Kotel, or?
By the Kotel. I think by the Kotel was mostly singing, but without guitar.
But without guitar, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because, it's not
I think that people might have objected, and I don't know.
It's also your davening. You can't perform at the Kotel.
Right. Well, you could sing. You could sing at the Kotel. There's nothing wrong with it.
Singing.
Yeah, but he had some. Yeah, he had different experiences. There were people who didn't like him in the Haredi community. The Amshin of a Rebbe protected him, though. You know that, right? The Amshin of a Rebbe. You know who the Amshin of a Rebbe is?
I heard of it. Unfortunately, I know of him, but I don't know his story, his greatness. Did you ever record him by yourself? The tape recorder thing? No.
Like for music?
Yeah.
No.
Anyways,
no. I'm not. I wasn't so much. I was more into the Torah than in a way. Of course, I love the music. You always start with the music, but the main thing in a way was the Torah that he was bringing down. Although I think that even deeper than the Torah was his healing, that he was healing people.
Ultimately, he was already healed. It was a.
He sort of told me that once.
He did?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what happened was that we were at this sort of retreat, Ruach retreat, where there were Shlomo and there's some other people there, Rabbi Meir Fund, if you know who that is, and a bunch of sort of New Age-ish, Orthodox-ish. So there was one guy there who told this whole miracle story about somebody told him to do a tikkun. Not him, he said it was a friend, but it might have been. And then he came back and and the guy jumped into the air and was dancing in the air. And afterwards, I asked Shlomo, I went to breakfast with him on, I guess Sunday morning or Monday morning at the famous breakfast, you don't know that famous dairy restaurant, you know that.
Where upstate?
It was on 72nd Street.
Ah, okay, yeah. I've been in the city a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and then I asked him what he thought of it, and he said he thought of that story, and he said, that's technical. If I would go into Africa in a village with a little flashlight, they'd think I was the greatest, magician in the world. He said the main thing is to heal people's hearts. That's what.
So he was saying that the guy's story was technical.
The guy's story was, they fly in the air. That's not.
I like that.
Healing the hearts. That's what's.
Okay, that's incredible. Hold on.